Hey, Tanner James, DJ TJ. We are back with the Peak Period podcast. Today's going to be an awesome episode, but I want to make sure that after you listen to this episode that you go check out the other episodes that we recently recorded because they are really, really good. The sales one, the perfect performances one, those are awesome things. Also, if you have not liked us on Facebook, go ahead and do that. It's just facebook.com/DJ TJ Training, or YouTube. If you just search Tanner James or DJ TJ Training, I'll come up with a bunch of videos and the profile. So just hit those. We really appreciate it. On the Facebook and my Instagram, we share usually one thing every single day. So it's some kind of DJ related tip. And a lot of just helpful tips, especially on like the stories. So definitely go check it out because it will be very beneficial to you. So on this episode of the Peak Period podcast, we're going to talk about backup equipment, backup solutions for DJs. What do you do? What do you do to prevent things from going wrong? And what do you do when things do go wrong? Because even though you don't want to think about it, bad things will happen to you. You can definitely do a lot by preventing it and keeping it from happening and that kind of stuff. But there is the part that it will happen, and what do you do when it does happen? So the first part of the podcast, I'm going to go over the preventative actions that you can take to prevent bad things from happening. I think that's the best way that we can, mitigate the damages, is just making sure that the problems don't arise in the first place. And of course, that's much easier said than done. But I think that if you don't try or you don't even think about it, that's where issues come in. So I'm going to give you a few ideas of some things that I've done in my past and what I still currently do that are very beneficial. But when I was starting out, I was really paranoid about backup equipment and what do I do if my laptop dies, or what do I do if, all this kind of stuff. And I think when I was starting out, I was just paranoid just because, this is a whole new thing. DJing was new to me, of course, probably like most of you. So when you start going out and doing different kinds of gigs, anything, clubs or mobile, it's very new. So you're worried, right? You're paranoid. I was super paranoid when I was starting out. So I looked online and just could not find what I was looking for. And I think what I was looking for was a different answer than what people were giving. They're saying, bring this kind of cable, have this or this. And I think what I was looking for really altogether was have quality equipment. Because when you have the quality equipment, the problems tend to not arise, right? So if you have the beat up old school speakers, they're much more likely to break versus the brand new ones that just came out that are, super nice and brand new. So I think that's the first step. And I just remember this. I don't necessarily have any problems with Windows versus Mac computers. I use a Mac because kind of like it's just proven to work. And I haven't I had an issue with a Windows computer, but it wasn't, I think, because it was a Windows. I think it's because it was not great. And then there was actually another DJ where he had a Windows computer and something happened. So when that happened, I'm like, all right, I need a Mac. Like, it probably wasn't the most logical thing, honestly. It wasn't like, oh yeah, like, well, maybe he just had a problem. Maybe he had an old laptop. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I just need to get a Mac. And my Mac has not messed me up. So that is why I've chosen to go with a Mac. But when I was starting out, I had a couple pretty big events coming up, and I did not want to risk anything. I did not want to risk anything. So I'm like, I'm going to get this nice MacBook, and it doesn't have to be the nicest one. I think that's where a lot of DJs go wrong. There was a DJ that I know, and he's really cool and all that, but he was like, a new MacBook came out recently, probably a year or 2 years ago. And he priced out the one that he wants, and it's like $4,000. And it's like, okay, I know I preach quality, but that is over the top. That's where I talk about going into stupid debt. You go into stupid debt to buy a $4,000 computer when a $1,000 computer could do the job. And really a $600 computer could do the job just perfectly. So, I think that's one of the main things is some people hate on Macs when it's like, well, yeah, if you buy a $4,000 computer, yeah, but you don't need the $4,000 computer. So, that's kind of the thing. And, you know, with a Mac, you get the little shiny Apple logo. And of course that makes it so much better. So I'm kidding. It doesn't. But, you know, that's a very interesting business, and how they've run it. But that's another story for another day with the branding and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I think when I was looking online and I'm looking for these things and I'm looking on forums and I'm looking on YouTube and I'm doing all these kinds of searches, I'm looking for the answer that wasn't there. You know, everybody was saying, oh, get an RCA to 3.5 millimeter jack, or, you know, have a 3.5 millimeter jack to for your phone or for your computer to a XLR so you can plug it right in. Have an extra iPod with mixes pre-made, all this kind of stuff. And I think really what the bigger issue in the whole entire thing was that I was looking for the half quality equipment, but I couldn't afford the quality equipment, so I couldn't actually buy it, right? Because I was starting out and I didn't have any money and I was young, and, you know, when you don't have any money, you can't do that. So, but, you know, as you start growing, you start getting nicer stuff, and that does happen. When you start making more money, you start investing more money into your business, and you have better equipment, right? You can start off with a wired microphone, and then you move your way up to a nicer wireless one, and then you work your way up to a really nice microphone, and that kind of stuff. So that is really, really a very important part of this, is just having the quality equipment. And with that, reliable equipment. If you have an issue with a piece of gear, but it's new, that doesn't mean you should use it. I'll give you an example. I got some moving head lighting and really, really nice stuff, but one of the lights has like a messed up XLR thing, and it just like won't work. It's so weird. So like I can connect them and do like master slave, but I can't connect it to any other lighting or chain it, if that makes sense. So like if I have 4 lights, that moving headlight can't be chained in the middle, can't be daisy chained. But if it connects to another like light, so like the pair of lights, it can connect, but it can't connect to any other type of lighting, any other brand, anything. So bizarre. I don't know why. But there's a couple issues with why I haven't returned it. One, it's nice for smaller events, and I don't need the DMX for some events, and so that's why I haven't returned it. And I just haven't even contacted support. They're priced well, and so it's not like a huge purchase, but they are nice. But the DMX doesn't work, so you know, I'm not going to take that and sell that to a client, sell this exact moving head to a client, and talk about how great it is in the DMX when it doesn't work, right? That doesn't make sense. So that's kind of another thing. Just be smart with it. Don't use equipment that you know isn't reliable. So if I'm using it for a graduation party, yeah, it's totally fine, right? Because I don't need the DMX, I'm just doing it for the effect. But if I'm going to use it for a super nice wedding or a school dance where I'm selling them on the effect of having everything connected, that wouldn't be very smart, right? That makes sense. Okay. I think the other really, really important preventative part of this whole thing is knowing your equipment. So when I was starting out and I was doing, some of the beginning stuff, one thing that my dad was helping me do is he was like, what I'm going to do is, or what you're going to set up all the equipment. You're going to go and like go in a different room, and then I'm going to like mess up something in here. So he'll disconnect a cable, or he'll connect 2 cables that aren't supposed to be connected, or he'll change the input on the XLR cables, or he'll unpower something. And I'm going to come in and figure out what's wrong as soon as possible, and almost like time me and make it a game, right? And the purpose of this was so that I actually know the whole entire sound system, and I figured out what works and why, why is it coming into the mixer but not out to the speakers? Okay, well, is it the power cable to the speakers? Is it the power cable to the, whatever the mixer? Is it the actual mixer? Is it the outputs on the mixer? Is it the cables to the speaker? What is it that is going on here, right? And so that was really helpful, because I actually learned what's going on with the equipment. And with that, it helped me because then when I go into a situation where something does go wrong, I can be like, okay, well, let's start at the mixer. Is it coming through the mixer? Yes, it's going to the output of the mixer. Okay, so then it's either a speaker cable or it's the power cable to the speaker. Is the speaker on? Yes. Is it powered on? Yes. Okay, awesome. Then it's the cable to the speaker. Where is it disconnected? Is it, so you do that kind of thing and you figure out exactly what it is supposed to be, and then you're good to go. And so many people, I think so many DJs, they know how to connect everything, but they don't necessarily know what it does, right? So I read a book on explanation. It's called The Art of Explanation. Really, really interesting book, and I highly recommend it because it goes over a lot of stuff that we can use when we're talking to clients. But one of the things that they talk about is how you can explain things to people. But what they said is what you need to do is, instead of telling people something, explain it to them so that they can actually understand what's going on. And in the book, they gave the example of like baking a cake. And they said, do you know what an egg does in the cake? Do you know what every single ingredient does to that cake? And I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, I don't. I just put the eggs in. I don't really know exactly what it does. Do I know what the baking soda does, the salt, like all this kind of stuff? I don't. Maybe you do, but what you have to use as an analogy and say most people don't know exactly what every single thing does. And when we're going into situations where something could possibly go wrong, and really it could possibly go wrong at any time, what do you do? Do you know why this cable runs from here to there and all that kind of stuff? And if you become a multi-op, you need to make sure that your guys know exactly why everything happens. And we're DJs, so we understand how DMX works, but not everybody does. So you have to explain it in a way that they actually understand it. How does this connect to here and this connect to here, and what's the program, and why are there why are there 3 different modes, 3, 6, and 18 channel modes in the DMX? Why? Let's figure out why. Tell them why, show them why, so that they actually understand it. So when something goes wrong and it's in 18 channel mode and it should be in 6, they can go and they can fix it and it's good to go. That is how you need to explain things to your guys and to clients. Don't just tell them about it, show them and explain it to them so that they actually understand it. And that's a really important thing. I talked about it. I talked about the curse of knowledge in a recent post on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, but I'll give it to you very, very briefly. It's from that same book, The Art of Explanation, and it talks about the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is basically when a expert of a subject is talking to a non-expert, right? So the non-expert doesn't know as much as the expert on that topic. Well, if the expert comes in and he starts talking with expert terms and things that experts understand, the non-expert, very, very confused. Okay, does that make sense? So I'm going to come in and I'm talking about trussing, right? This nice trussing. Okay, well, the clients have absolutely no clue what I'm talking about. And then I try and explain it. Yeah, so it's like this aluminum metal structure, and it goes up and it looks really elegant when you uplight it. They don't understand what that means, guys. So what that means for you is show them a picture of it. Instead of talking about a monogram where it's like this light that's projected on the wall and it has your name and it can be completely customized, show them a picture of it, because that does the selling for you. Instead of you going in and trying to explain it, they get all confused. You're using the curse of knowledge. You're talking about the wireless bands on your wireless microphone. They don't understand it. So that's another thing, wireless microphones. People will come in and say, yeah, my microphone has the scannable technology and it does X, Y, and Z, and it scans 100 frequencies or whatever, and it's on the J range or whatever, and it's great. Okay, well, clients don't understand that. You know what clients care about? They care about themselves. They don't care about you. They don't care about your equipment. They care about themselves. You need to come in and say, hey, when I get to the venue, I hit this button on my microphone. It has this feature. It scans a bunch of frequencies, and then it tells me which one is the best so that you don't have dropouts. That means everybody's going to hear it. It's going to be crystal clear, and we don't have the dropouts or the static kind of stuff on the speeches. The clients are going to say, oh my gosh, I totally know what you're talking about. That's awesome. We need that. Great. There we go. Sold. So that is one huge tip with explaining stuff. But, knowing your equipment. So that's a preventative thing, that when stuff happens, it will help you, because then you can just roll right into it and be like, oh, okay, bam, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Totally good. And really, really helpful when you actually know your equipment, because when something happens, you can solve it very, very quickly. And then, of course, I do think those cables are important that I mentioned earlier. The RCA to the headphone jack cable and the RCA or headphone jack to XLR cable, so you can plug it directly into your speakers. Very, very important. As well as having just backup equipment. And I think that's where a lot of DJs miss. If you're a club DJ or really any DJ, you need to have those 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch adapters for your headphones, because those are really, really important. And when you forget it, you're going to be so upset. It's happened to me once and it's horrible. So don't let that happen to you. But buy them off Amazon. I think I did it once and got like 5 of them, and then I just throw them all in my bag and like I'm good to go, right? And I also recommend having backup USB to the USB, like whatever it is, to B, USB 2B or whatever, I don't know. The MIDI controller cables, because you may get to a venue that doesn't have one, and like if you just plug it in, you're good to go. Super, super helpful. I get mine from DJ Tech Tools, and I think I got a few of them and just have them in my bag, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to pay money. I'm probably never going to use them, but if I have to, I'm super, super good to go. I think also having some earplugs in your bag, just the little plastic ones, really, really important investment, just to keep them in there, just in case for you, for other people at the venue that may need them, that kind of thing. Really, really nice. So if something does happen, what do you do? Right? So yeah, know your equipment. Yeah, do this. Yeah. But I think there's a couple other pieces to it. I think one of the really important things that you have to do is keep calm. Because if you start stressing out, other people will pick up on it, right? And that is not what you want. So I've been in the situation where, like, it's a little small issue, but somebody's freaking out, and then it freaks me out, and then now I'm freaking out, and then it's like all bad, and it's like there was no reason to freak out. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But altogether, it's not that big of a deal. So that's really important. Don't freak out, and don't make a big deal out of it. Be calm, stay calm, be cool, and figure it out. Okay? Depending on the size of the issue, if you forget your laptop, that's kind of a big issue, but do you have a phone that you could use that you can figure it out? Okay, good. So I think what happens is when something doesn't happen the way we think it should, we freak out. And when you freak out, that isn't the best scenario, because you don't want to freak out. You just want to roll on with it and let's go. Let's move on. And I think that is super, super important. I think I was blessed with some awesome genes of problem solving and stress management. So when I'm under a lot of stress from a lot of things going on, problems occurring, you can move on with it, and the problem solving skills that I can move on and look at what's going on and solve it. So I'll give you an example. I was DJing at this club, and I normally park in the exact same parking garage, right? Exact same one. It's relatively cheap. It's good to go. It's super close. Everything's all good. Well, I'm from Sacramento, so the Sacramento Kings just had a game, and I guess I normally DJ there on Fridays or something, and so it was on a Saturday. Well, what happened was, it's packed downtown. Every single parking garage is literally full, right? There's like 4 of them right next to each other. Every single one's completely full. And so I'm like, okay, let's move on. So I hit some traffic. So I was running a little bit later than I like to. I was still super early. I have to get there at like 5 o'clock. Because it was a earlier thing. I have to get there at 5 o'clock, and I usually get there around 4:55, 4:40, or 4:55, 4:50, right around that time, right before, and then I chill in the car and that kind of thing. Well, I was running late, and I was probably getting there around 4:50. Maybe I get there around 4:45, and I was there around 4:55. So I was still okay on time. I was perfect on time. I was still early because music didn't have to start until 5:30, but I want to be there early, right? And so I'm like, okay, so I'm like, what am I going to do, right? Because the first thing I could do is tell the clients I have a problem. And that is usually, I always recommend telling clients that there was a problem. And I'll give you an example a little bit later, but it wasn't to the point where it was needed for me to tell them, right? Because it's not like I drove around and there's no parking in the whole town. It's just not where I normally park. But he's like, yeah, it's really busy. You know, the guy that I was talking to, yeah, it's super busy. So, you know, good luck. And I'm like, thanks, dude. You know, like this guy's like so rude to me. Like I'm stressing out now. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, okay. So I drive around and I'm kind of driving around. I'm looking for any open spot, cannot find a spot. Okay. I'm serious. It is really packed. And so I'm kind of driving around the streets. I'm looking around. Well, I happen to find a parking space kind of off the beaten path. And I ended up pulling in and I got one and it was near a park. And so I'm like, all right, here it is. It's going to be like a mile walk. Okay. And I have my mixer and my big backpack and I'm like, this is not ideal. So I turned to Uber, right? So I called an Uber and I'm like, I don't care how much it is. I just need to get there on time, right? And so I got there, called the Uber. The Uber guy was like a minute away. He came, picked me up, got in the car and drove and, you know, got there and it was all good to go. So what was a bad problem of there being no parking, I turned it and I'm like, let's figure out what I'm going to do. What are my options? Okay. Park on the side of the street and get my car towed. All right. That's one option. You know, try and what's my other option? Park illegally? I mean, yeah, that's an option, but I don't want to get towed. And so then I'm like, okay, well then what's the other, you know, like option? We'll keep driving, right? So I'm like, all right, let's keep driving. And so then I go and I'm like, okay, well I have Uber. So I'm in the car and I'm like, I have Uber. I'll just park somewhere. It doesn't matter. I'll call an Uber. It'll cost me a few bucks and I'll get there. Okay, awesome. So so normally the parking garage costs me like $8-10. Uber costs me like $4 times 2 times, right? Getting to the venue and getting back from where I parked, and there wasn't any parking because it was a night. So I'm like, perfect. So it cost me $8. So this problem that was bad is now going to cost me less, and there's I mean, yeah, it's an inconvenience and it stressed me out, but I'm like literally saving money. I'm like, wow, this wasn't that bad. So if you freak out about things, when you start freaking out about things, it instantly makes you stop thinking of ideas to do, if that makes sense. And I think I do this sometimes, like on a daily basis. I'm freaking out about maybe an issue that's going on instead of figuring out ways to solve it, right? And I think we all do it to some capacity. We freak out about problems instead of figuring out how to solve them. And I think that is what causes so many more problems, because then you don't solve it and then you have more problems come in and then another issue and this and that, and it's just a bigger issue. So keep calm when you have a problem. The other part of when stuff does happen is notify the clients. Notifying the clients will ease your mind because you're not hiding anything from them, and it allows them to be on the same page and understand what's going on. I had an event. It was a crazy packed day and I had to drive like an hour and a half. It was an hour and a half drive, but since there was going to be traffic, it was going to be right around 2 hours. So I gave myself plenty of time. I think I gave myself 3 hours to be at the location. It's a school dance. It was at a school gym, super, super casual dance. And so I think I gave myself, it was going to be a 2-hour drive. I think I gave myself 3 hours to get there. And I'm like, if we get there early, I'll just have lunch or have dinner and we'll be good to go. And then I still had setup time, an extra hour, however long I had. So I was leaving really, really early because I didn't want to be late. And so I start driving, everything's all good, detour, right? Like completely traffic accident that closed down a whole entire freeway, and they had us detour. Well, once I found out about this detour, I instantly pick up my phone. I'm in the car with somebody else, my videographer and photographer, and like we didn't expect it. And so I'm like, hey, call her, get her on the phone, and I'll talk to her. And so he's like going to my phone, he finds the number, calls it, and I, just say, hey, Katie, it's Tanner. And she's like, oh, hey, how's it going? What's going on? And I'm like, hey, there was a detour. There was a really bad accident on, whatever freeway. So we are going in a detour. It says it's going to take, 35 minutes, 45 minutes, extra, but we left super, super early that it shouldn't be a problem. We actually left an hour extra early. So really we should still be there right on time. But I just wanted to let you know so that you know what's going on. And she's like, okay, well, thank you so much for telling me. Yeah, no worries. Just let me know what's going on. I said, awesome, will do. and I'll text you when we're closer. And she's like, okay, awesome, thank you. And so we were like half an hour away, and I texted her, said half an hour, and she's like, awesome, thanks. And so what that did was it relieved my mind. So instead of being in the car paranoid forever the whole entire way, it's just like, I'll be there then, and she knows it, and she's like, awesome. I'm like, good to go. So then my car ride wasn't full of stress and like just worry. It turned into, it'll be okay, she knows, and that's good to go. And so whatever the issue is, tell the client so that they know and they're on the same page as you. I think that's one of the bigger mistakes that you can make, is trying to hide it, because it's only going to stress you out more. And I think if you're a multi-op, having your team know that it's okay to come to you with problems really, really helps, right? And this is kind of a leadership thing. If somebody comes to you because they made a mistake, you want to handle it and not freak out on them. Because when you freak out on them, it's showing everybody else that they don't want to, be that person. So if you are just rude and you really ridicule the person, you don't want that, because that will cause so many more issues. Because then the next time somebody messes up, they won't come tell you. And when that happens, then you'll really be in bigger issues, because then they won't tell you that they forgot to set up a monogram, or that they forgot to, whatever it is, that they forgot to hand out this at the event, or they forgot to do this, or do the glow sticks, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, but you want to make an open environment. So if somebody makes a mistake, that they can come to you and tell you, and know that they aren't gonna like lose their job over a small mistake or that kind of thing. Because you don't want that kind of feel on your team and in your team. So again, I think really the important pieces of this are be proactive instead of reactive if you can. And stuff will happen. Some weird stuff will happen. I one event, I left so early and we hit like a snowstorm. It was literally the worst snowstorm they've ever seen. Freeways closed, and this was a different event. This was a different school dance. Freeways closed. Mudslides, cars getting flipped, like just complete messes. And telling the client and just saying, hey, look, this is what's going on. Of course they know it, right? If something bad happens and it's so bad, they know it. The issue is when you're like, yeah, my grandma died and I have to go to her funeral on your set, and then don't find a DJ for that person. That is what gives DJs bad names. But if you are respectable and at least look responsible and are on it, people will give you some extra slack if something goes wrong. If you're a professional, if you come across as a professional, if you reply to emails quickly, then the one time that you don't reply to the email, or you forget to send them an invoice, they will forgive you, because the other 95% of the time you are on it. And that is really, really important. So again, be proactive, get the quality equipment, do that kind of stuff, and know your equipment so that if something happens, you know how to fix it. And then when you're reactive, because it's going to happen, bad stuff will happen to you. It is what it is. It's going to happen. But when it does happen to you, make sure that you are calm and look at your options. Don't freak out. Look at your options, see what you have, see what you can do, and then go into the notifying the client, because that is really important. And then find out what you're going to do and tell them. When you talk to a client and something's going wrong, this is what I say you do. I say you figure out the problem, you figure out what to do, and then you tell the client, hey, Katie, this happened. We don't have the monogram, but what we're going to do is X, Y, and Z. Whatever it is, tell them what you're going to do, because all they want to know is what happened, why did it happen, and what are you going to do to fix it? Okay, you send out a bad DJ to an event and they don't like the DJ. It's a school dance, whatever. What happened? I told him what to do and he didn't do it. I told him the music to play and he didn't do it. Why did it happen? I don't know. Because weird, people do weird stuff. And what are you gonna do to fix it? He will never come out to your event again. Bam. Okay, done. So that's all they want to know. What happened? Why did it happen? And what are you going to do to fix it? I forgot your monogram. Really sorry about it. Why did it happen? What happened? What are you going to do to fix it? I forgot the monogram. We don't have it. I can't get it because it's, wherever. They didn't ship it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to either, give you a credit or, you're going to pay less. I'll give you a credit or I'll give you this add-on. Whatever it is, you got to figure out that. But because that's the problem solving that you have to figure out. But when you do that, that's an awesome way to solve problems. So if you have any questions about this, go ahead and email me. Send me an email because I'd love to help you out if you have any questions about that kind of stuff. But yeah. So again, be proactive, and then when you're reactive, stay calm and tell the client. So that is the end of this podcast. Again, please reach out on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Really, really, really appreciate it. Subscribe to the podcast, rate and review it on iTunes. We would really, really appreciate that. And if you have any questions, go ahead, reach out. Until next week, thank you for listening again to the Peak Period Podcast. My name's Tanner James, DJ TJ with DJ TJ Training, and I will catch you next week.